Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Shaper, Deputy Chairman of the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission and also an adjunct professor here at the University of Canberra. It's much my pleasure today to talk to you about this issue about personal development for entrepreneurs, some myths and some opportunities. Today I'd like to cover a few issues. Let's have a look at some of these. First of all, a little bit of a recap about what is an entrepreneur. Who is the person that goes out to try and create a new business venture or to grow one? And what sort of personal attributes do they have? Secondly, and intimately involved with the issue of entrepreneurship, is that of success and failure. Because it really is important to understand not only what the upside of owning and running your own business is, but also what are the potential pitfalls. And then finally, some ideas about strategies, about how to best manage your own career going forward, whether you ultimately end up working full-time as an entrepreneur, full-time as an employee for someone else, or as many people are increasingly doing so, a hybrid, a bit of a portfolio career of doing a bit of both. So let's have a look at those, shall we? First of all, an entrepreneur. Well, obviously this is an issue that's going to come out again and again throughout the nature of the course, but there are many different aspects to what entrepreneurs are, the sort of businesses they go into, and why they do it. As you can see from this slide, there are a number of different reasons why some people choose to start and develop a particular business idea. It might be because they need to create a job for themselves or for their family. It might be because they have a burning desire, like Steve Jobs, to create a new business model to change the way things are done. It may be like Fred DeLuca, the founder of Subway food chain, that you have desire to create a particular business model. Or going back over a century ago now, one of the early advent of car mass production was done by Henry Ford, who had a deep sense of frustration about how things were done and a very strong belief about how they could be done better. And there are also entrepreneurs who do these things not only because of the money that they can make, but also because of the desire to build a better future for them and their family. So entrepreneurs have many different motivations, and I'm sure those of you out there today, many of you will have your own particular reasons about why you want to consider the option of entrepreneurship for your own life and goals. But there are a couple of attributes about entrepreneurs that do set them apart from other individuals, and indeed, although they can't be taught, there are often many of the characteristics that we use to define or explain why entrepreneurs fundamentally are different, for example, managers, to career, employees, or to other members of the community. So let's have a look at some of those. First of them, as I mentioned before, is a very strong motivation about doing something, particularly a business model, that's their own. But to do that isn't just an easy thing to do. Indeed, it requires a large measure of calculated risk-taking, not wild, outrageous gambling, but rather a strong sense of evaluating opportunities, working out what the problems are, trying to solve them, and then and only then, if they're feasible, embarking upon the business project. And to do that, it also requires people with particular individual skills. One thing that does set a lot of entrepreneurs apart is what we call an internal locus of control. Compared to many other members of the community, these are people for whom the buck stops with themselves. They don't see themselves as passive victims or passive recipients of what the world dishes out. They see themselves as people who are in control of their own fates and their own destinies, and who actively go out to make their own fate as they see it. And we refer to that in the psychological literature as an internal locus of control, a strong sense of I am in control of myself, how I react to problems, how I deal with situations, and the destiny that I ultimately carve for myself. So those attributes, risk-taking, an internal sense of control, the ability to identify problems, to work out ways to solve them, a strong desire to grow business, all those, along with a large measure of passion, persistence and imagination, are some of the common attributes that you'll find amongst most entrepreneurs. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about people in Australia, whether we're talking about overseas, wherever they may be, in for-profit businesses or indeed in not-for-profit businesses as well. Social entrepreneurs, private entrepreneurs, all of them exhibit largely the same characteristics. So those are some of the features that are probably worth thinking about in terms of the background about who are entrepreneurs. It's not enough, though, to actually have those set of characteristics. You've also got to think about what does entrepreneurship offer me in terms of where I'm going to in my life. And there are a lot of myths that who would believe that entrepreneurs, for example, are people with large amounts of money, who flaunt the rules, and who don't really know how to do business, for example, ethically or responsibly. There are another set of people who say, well, most businesses are going to fail. And the third group would say, well, really aren't that many entrepreneurs in Australia. Now let's have a look at some of those, because they do have an impact ultimately on one's capacity to actually succeed in entrepreneurship. So as you can see here on this slide, there's a couple of myths that are bound about. That there aren't many entrepreneurs in Australia, that there really isn't a lot of business people out there starting new businesses. Secondly, that failure rates are outrageously high. And thirdly, that businesses, because of those failure rates, don't really succeed. Well, as you can see from this slide here, every year the Australian Bureau of Statistics actually goes out and counts the number of new businesses that are trading. And these are not just paper registrations, but real registrations, to see how many new businesses have been created each year and how many have exited. And these figures that I've put up here, which run over the last 5 years, I think are really illuminating for a number of different aspects. First of all, you can see there that every year since 2007, 2008, roughly about 300,000 people start a new business every year. It's an interesting figure. And what's almost just as interesting, and certainly quite sobering, is the next column along, the number of exits. You can see there that the number of exits only narrowly is less than the number of entries each year. And indeed, when you look at it over several years, you can see that net growth, entries minus exits, is actually not a particularly large figure. And there's a couple of obvious implications that come out of this. First of all, there are in fact many more people starting a business every year in Australia than most of us would believe. Roughly about 300,000. That's a huge number. And indeed, the ABS figures do show that it is roughly about one person for every new business. At the same time, there's also an awful lot of people going out of business. And finally, as you can see at the end of that column, there's roughly about 2 million businesses, 2.1 million businesses trading in Australia. And separately, the Bureau has estimated that there are just under 2 million individuals operating those businesses. There are a very small group of people who operate multiple businesses, but most of our entrepreneurs in Australia start one business and run that through. So, large numbers of people, contrary to what you might think, actually do give it a go, but just as soberingly, large numbers of them exit. Now, are they the same people that just started that business? Did they start a business this year and close it down? Or are these people closing a business that's been around for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? Well, the figures show, in fact, that most businesses that start this year will probably survive for anywhere between 5 to 10 years. According again to the Bureau of Statistics, any given year about 8 or 9% of businesses fail. And so what happens after 1 year, 8 or 9% are out of trade. After a second year, another 8 or 9%. And when you start adding that up, it means that after 5 years, about a third of them have stopped trading. And after 10 years, about half of them. And after 15 years, about 2/3. So the common argument that some people put around that all businesses fail within the first 2 or 3 years, or most businesses fail, isn't true. But on the other hand, it's not true to say that all businesses survive or that it's easy for them. So some very sobering statistics there. One of the other ones that also comes out that's really important for you to bear in mind is that new businesses have the highest rate of exit or failure as well. So if you are starting a business, the odds aren't necessarily stacked against you, but you do need a